Alright, so this review is a request of the account of Chriso1507. And actually, on a side note, she does some Smallville reviews herself, and I've checked some of them out. And she probably does them a lot frequently than I do. So yeah, if you want to check that out, I'll definitely put the account name in here. So yeah, she requested, because she was one of the contest entries, for me to do the episode of Smallville Season 5, Aqua, which is, as we all can tell by the title, and anybody who's seen the episode, the introduction of Aquaman. Yeah, so that's the fourth episode in, and it's an interesting episode because they really take Aquaman, bringing him to life in a new way, and we also get an intro to Milton Fine. So we'll get to that. Okay, episode starts out with Clark and Lana on the beach, and at Crater Lake. And it's right after he's got his powers back, so he has kind of mixed feelings of whether he should really continue on with this relationship with Lana, because he's figuring now that he's got his powers back, it makes their relationship a lot more complicated, a lot more secrets. So Chloe kind of eggs him on a bit about that. Lois is back, and she's moving back into the Kent farm. I believe she was in Europe. I think that's what she said. And she goes to jump off the dock, and she actually accidentally bangs her head on a thing of driftwood, starts to drown. Clark realizes something's wrong, so he jumps into the lake to catch her. And then he's actually interrupted by somebody who's faster than him underwater. And the guy reaches Lois, pulls her out of the water, and starts doing mouth-to-mouth to save her. And yeah, Lois opens her eyes to see these big freaking abs and like pec muscles on top of her. And she's like every other girl in Smallville, freaking head over heels in love. Or just horny. And Clark is like, to Chloe, when he talks about this guy who just saved Lois. This guy can swim fast, faster than me. This is something else. Now, I get that it's really interesting when we have somebody who is more powerful than Clark, okay? I think that it's an interesting subject. Like, Bart is faster than Clark in super speed, okay? But the way that they execute this scene is really a bit over the top, because Clark is like, the guy can swim faster than me. And I was kind of the one thinking, okay, so what? Like, Superman is not well known for his swimming abilities. I'm just saying. It's like somebody saying, that that guy's smarter than me. Okay. That guy can, drive better than me. Your point? I'm just saying, it really is a case of, are we playing this scene up too much? And I think that's the case here. So then we cut to Smallville, or Clark. I almost pulled a Lois there. Clark goes to his college, Central Kansas A&M University. I've actually been to Kansas, and I've seen, this is a fictional university that he's at. And I've been to the Kansas University campus, and it's obviously inspired at least a little bit from that, because it looks a little bit similar to it. But it's obviously, you know, a Smallville set. Anyway, so he's going to a history class that's hosted by Milton Fine. And this is the interesting part, because Milton Fine, who we will all figure out who he is later in the season, but we obviously get a very big sense of bias when it comes to Lex Luthor and him. And he expresses that in class. Now, that is tolerable for a Smallville character. But the guy is a history teacher. And he just pulls this out of the air. Like, freaking nowhere. And the guy's, like, talking about current events like Lex Luthor and how he's so evil. What does that have to do with history? At all. It'd be like me talking about, me being a history teacher, and I start talking about the war in Iraq. What does that have to do with history? It's basically current events. Or, yeah, like, okay, there's recent history, and then there's the Roman Empire, the freaking Mayans. the Ice Age, stuff like that. And the guy's not talking about any of it. So he starts talking to Clark, and he starts putting this seed of mistrust in Lex. And he quotes Groucho Marx, of all people, which even Clark finds a little weird. And the guy offers Clark a job as a research assistant in getting into Luthor Corp's dirty little secrets. And he kind of turns it down, and he's like, you don't really want to know what Lex is really up to, do you? And so then we cut to Lois, who's kind of flirting a bit with Aquaman, or AC, Arthur Curry as we call him. Now, the way that they take Aquaman here is a little how they did Dr. Fate, because they take him, give him the same principles, but almost an entirely different personality. What we have here is Aquaman as basically a beach bum, a surfer dude. And he calls Clark, like, bro, and uses all these, like, Hawaii surfer boy lingo things. And really, if you have seen, and yeah, you can take, I'm not saying that it's a bad idea, but if you were to take the character of Aquaman from, say, Justice League, put him next to this guy, put them in the same room, it would be like looking at almost two different people. Because really, yeah, they have the same morals, they have the same beliefs, but at the same time, the guy is really so, like, you really are just kind of putting this, like, I don't know what to say, like, just, he's so youthful, and, like, comparison to, like, the other incarnations. Yeah, I get that it's Smallville, it's before the superheroes were actually superheroes, but it's something that continues with his character. So he starts having a bit of a romance with Lois. Clark is a bit mistrusting of who this guy is. Finds out that he has a record of springing dolphins out of a aquarium. And so he follows this guy to a Luthor Corp lab, where he's planting explosives on this little sub thing. Actually, I should probably mention this. He was swimming with Lois, and he heard this sonic screaming in his ear that came from this thing. And all these dead fish started floating up. So he tries to blow it up. Clark stops him. They get into a little fight where he knocks Clark like 20 feet out the water. And we find out that the sub thing, or the little underwater sonar weapon, is made by Lex. It's called the Leviathan. It uses sonar stuff to attack, like, submarine vessels, but it also has a side effect of killing off lots of aquatic life. So Arthur is very upset about this, because he's a bit of an eco nut, and that's not saying that you can't be passionate about wildlife, but he's obviously kind of like a Greenpeace kind of activist. So he goes to figure out what's wrong. First, they go to confront Lex, okay? And it's a case of where first he calls him cue ball because of no hair. Then he calls him a freaking tool right to his face. Wow, I can't believe that that's actually not been done on Smallville before, because Lex is a bit of a tool. So Lex figures out that Arthur was responsible for interfering with the Leviathan, finds out he can breathe underwater, and he holds him hostage, tries to figure out what's up with Aquaman. And the thing that I like about Aquaman here is that they don't full out say he's an Atlantean. It's just a lot of teases that don't go too deep. He's really the only character on Smallville that has this much mystery to his origins. And so he's going to test out Leviathan in front of these Pentagon guys. Clark ends up spraying the fire, the water stuff on the ceiling. I can't believe I don't know what it's called. For fires. And it goes on Aquaman, and he gets strong again, breaks out of his restraints. They go pound the crap out of Leviathan, and the Pentagon deal obviously goes belly flop. So Clark goes to confront Lex, and he realizes that Milton Fine was right, and that even though he defended him, Lex was still up to something deceitful. And so he goes to the Milton Fine guy, says, I'm ready to figure out what Luthor Corp's up to. And Arthur Curry, of course, is going away to figure out what to do with himself now. And we'll see him again, obviously. Um, so yeah, the interesting thing though is that after all this romance, that's really been so rushed with Lois. We get a little scene at the end of him beside Lois, sort of comforting her, but it really was one episode where it kind of moved really freaking fast, even for Smallville. So that's my review on Aqua, and yeah, it's a really good episode. Too bad they didn't spin it off into Mercy Reef like they intended.